Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's story. I promise it's going to be a fun one.
She didn't fit the composition. My mom didn't whisper it. She said it like she was reading a grocery list, standing at the head of the Thanksgiving table while the whole family watched me flip through the printed photo cards. I kept turning them over, one after another. Same living room, same hardwood floor, same row of cousins in the front, except my daughter was gone. Not cropped out, not blocked by someone's shoulder, gone like she had never existed. A perfect little gap where Sophie had been sitting in her pale blue dress, smiling so hard her cheeks made her eyes squint. My sister Lauren reached across the table and tried to pull the stack away from me. "Stop!" I said. My voice came out flatter than I felt. "Don't touch them." Sophie stood by my chair. 7 years old back then. She reached for one card with both hands, slow, like it might burn her. She stared at the empty spot and then at the people around it, like she was trying to understand how the picture could still be real. Her lips trembled. Did I do something wrong? No one answered her. Not right away. My dad cleared his throat and looked at the turkey like it could save him. My mom crossed her arms. Lauren rolled her eyes like Sophie was being dramatic. I waited for anyone to say, "That's a mistake. We'll fix it." Instead, my mom nodded toward the cards. "It's not personal. We're sending those to the whole family. We wanted it to look tidy." "Tidy," I repeated. Lauren gave a tight smile. Her dress was pulling focus, and she was sitting forward. It threw off the symmetry. I stared at Sophie. She was holding the card like it was proof she didn't belong. Her fingers started to shake. I leaned down and put my hand over hers. "Sweetie, you didn't do anything." But I couldn't make my voice sound sure, because the grown-ups in the room were acting like erasing a child was normal, like it was a design choice. I flipped one card and then another, close to my face. Something was wrong in a way you couldn't explain to someone who didn't want to see it. The hardwood floorboards behind the cousins repeated in a strange pattern, like copied wallpaper. A shadow under my nephew's knee bent the wrong direction. This wasn't a printing glitch. This was deliberate. I looked up. "Who edited these?" Lauren's shoulders lifted. "I did. Mom asked me to." Mom didn't deny it. She just said, "It's for the family. Don't start a scene." That was the moment I understood the rules in this house hadn't changed just because Sophie existed. I had brought my daughter into a place that treated people like furniture, useful when placed correctly, removed when they weren't. I pushed my chair back, slow. The legs scraped the floor. Everyone flinched like the sound itself was disrespectful. "I'm not staying for dinner," I said. My mom's eyes narrowed. "Don't be ridiculous." Lauren laughed once, soft and sharp. "You always do this. You make everything about you." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't give them anything to point at later. I picked up my coat. I picked up Sophie's little backpack. I kept one card in my hand. Sophie followed me into the hallway. Her shoes were too quiet on the wood. At the door, she stopped and looked back toward the dining room, like she still expected someone to call her name and fix it. No one did. In the car, Sophie buckled herself in. She kept staring down at her lap. I started the engine, then sat there, gripping the steering wheel so hard my fingers went numb. I wanted to turn back. March in. Demand an apology. Demand a reprint. Demand they admit what they did. But I already knew the script they'd use. They'd tell me I was overreacting. They'd tell me I was ungrateful. They'd tell me to endure because we were family. And the most dangerous part was this. They'd say it while Sophie listened, and she'd learn that being erased was something you were supposed to swallow. If you've ever been told to stay quiet because you're strong, you'll get why I'm telling you this hit. So this reaches someone who needs to hear they're not crazy. I drove us back to the house I had been forced to move into after my divorce, the same house where my grandmother lived upstairs, the same house my parents controlled like it was theirs. Sophie and I had a room in the attic. Sophie is 9 now, but she was 7 that Thanksgiving. The question she asked me that night still rings in my ears. The kind of room that gets hot in summer and cold in winter. The kind of room people give you when they want you close enough to help, but far enough to ignore. When we got inside, the house was still loud with relatives. Laughter, plates clinking, football on the TV. I carried Sophie up the narrow stairs to the attic. She sat on the bed and finally looked at me. "Mom," she said, "careful. Why am I not in the picture?" I took a breath. I felt my throat close, but I kept my face steady. "Because some adults think appearances matter more than feelings," I said. "And sometimes they make bad choices." Sophie nodded like she understood, but her eyes didn't. She held the card again, studying the empty space like a puzzle. Then she asked the question that made my stomach drop. "Am I still part of our family?" I opened my mouth, and my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Lauren. "Don't poison her against us. It's Thanksgiving. Be grateful." I stared at the screen and realized this wasn't just about a photo. They were already rewriting the story, and I was about to find out how far they were willing to go to keep me quiet. Before I tell you what I did next, drop a comment if someone erased your kid like that. Would you leave immediately, or would you stay and fight? The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee I hadn't made. Downstairs, my mom was already at the kitchen counter, stacking the leftover photo cards into envelopes like they were bills to be paid. She didn't look at me when I walked in. "We're mailing these today." I stepped closer. "Not those." She finally lifted her eyes. "Don't do this." I kept my voice even. "You removed my child from your family card. You're not sending that to anyone." Lauren sat at the table, scrolling her phone, acting like this was boring. My dad stood behind my mom with his hands in his pockets, shoulders hunched, like he was waiting for the weather to pass. Mom tapped the stack with her fingernail. "We already paid for them. It's wasteful." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was exactly the kind of argument she used for everything. Money, reputation, waste, always more important than what people felt. Sophie padded in behind me in her pajamas. She stopped when she saw the cards. Mom's expression changed into something that pretended to be warm. "Morning, sweetheart." Sophie didn't answer. She just looked at the envelopes. Lauren finally looked up. "Oh my God. She's not traumatized. She doesn't even care. You're the one making it weird." Sophie's face went stiff. I watched her swallow. That detail was the first thing that felt wrong to me. Lauren was talking about my daughter like she wasn't in the room, like Sophie was a prop. I reached for the stack. My mom pulled it back fast. "Don't!" she snapped. Then she caught herself and softened her tone like she was the reasonable one. "Honey, we're trying to keep the peace. It's for the family." "For the family," I repeated. "Whose family?" My dad finally spoke. "Can we not do this? People will talk if you make a thing out of it." There it was, the real fear. Not Sophie's feelings, not mine, the neighbors, the relatives, the story they'd tell at church. I looked at Sophie. She was staring at the floor. I said, "Sophie, go upstairs for a minute, okay?" She hesitated. She didn't want to leave. But she nodded and walked away. As soon as she was out of earshot, Mom leaned closer to me. "You're making her sensitive." I blinked. "I'm making her sensitive?" Lauren chimed in, casual. "Kids pick up on whatever you feed them. If you want her to have a future, you need to teach her not to take everything personally." My hands curled into fists, then relaxed. I forced them open. I said, "You erased her. That is personal." Mom's voice stayed calm. "It was a design decision. And you didn't think to ask me?" Mom shrugged. "You're living here. We handle family things." That was the secret I finally admitted to myself. In their minds, Sophie wasn't mine. Not fully. We were guests, dependents, labor. The attic wasn't just a room. It was a reminder. I worked a normal office job, accounts payable at a small shipping company. Nothing fancy. After the divorce, daycare costs and rent ate my paycheck. When Grandma's health started slipping, my parents offered help. Help meant move back in, save money, and be around to assist Grandma. The unspoken part was always clear. I would do the work. Lauren would live her life. Lauren had a son, Evan, who stayed some weekends. Evan had a real bedroom on the second floor with a door that closed and a bed that wasn't pushed under a slanted ceiling. Sophie slept under the roofline with a space heater that clicked on and off all night. Whenever I brought it up, Mom said, "It's temporary." Dad said, "Be grateful." Lauren said, "Don't be selfish. Evan needs stability." Everything was always for the kids, just not for my kid. I reached for the envelopes again, slower this time. "I'm taking those." Mom's hand tightened. "You're not." Lauren stood up, finally engaged. "Seriously? Stop. We're not redoing the whole thing because you're in your feelings." I looked at my dad. "Are you okay with this?" He didn't answer. He stared past me, like if he didn't make eye contact, he wasn't responsible. That was another wrong detail. My dad always fixed things. He fixed cars. He fixed leaky faucets. He fixed arguments by telling me to apologize even when I wasn't wrong. Now he wasn't fixing anything. I realized the help I wanted wasn't coming from any of them. If you've ever felt your own family close ranks and leave you standing alone, tell me in the comments, what would you do in my place? So I did the only thing I could do. I walked away. Not surrender. Strategy. I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and searched for night shifts. Anything. Warehouse admin, late-hour data entry, cleaning offices after closing. If I could stack 2 jobs for 6 months, I could get Sophie out. A small apartment, a door that locked. A life where no one could erase her. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Lauren. I told myself silence was safer, but Grandma noticed everything. That afternoon, she called me into her room. Her voice was thin, but her eyes were sharp. "I saw the card," she said. I tried to play dumb. "It's not important." Grandma patted the bed beside her. "Come here." I sat. She took my hand, and her grip was stronger than it looked. "That little girl asked me last night why she wasn't in the picture," Grandma said. She thought she had to earn her place. My throat tightened. "I'm handling it." Grandma's gaze didn't move. "No, you've been handling things your whole life. That's why they keep doing it." Then she said something I didn't expect. "I called my attorney this morning." My stomach flipped. "Why?" Grandma looked past me toward the hallway, like she could see through walls. "Because I'm not leaving my house to people who treat a child like she's disposable." I stared at her. "Grandma, what did you do?" She squeezed my hand once. I changed my will. And in that moment, I knew my mother and Lauren weren't going to let that happen quietly. If this story has ever made your stomach twist, you might want to subscribe because what they tried next wasn't just cruel, it was reckless. 2 days later, Lauren started being nice. Not real nice. The kind of nice that feels like someone's smiling with their teeth clenched. She knocked on the attic door holding a mug of cocoa like she was in a commercial. "For Sophie," she said. Sophie looked at it, then at me. I said, "No thank you." Lauren's eyes flashed. Then her face smoothed over again. "I'm trying to make peace. For the family." There it was again, that phrase, like it was a shield she could hide behind. After she left, I carried the mug downstairs and dumped it in the sink. I rinsed the cup twice, even though there was nothing left. Sophie watched me do it from the hallway. "Was it poisoned?" she asked, half joking. "No," I said. "Just not for us." She nodded like she understood. Then she whispered, "Aunt Lauren doesn't like me, does she?" I crouched down so we were eye level. "This isn't about you," I told her, even though it was starting to feel exactly about her. Sophie looked past me, toward the stairs. "Then why does it feel like I have to disappear to make them happy?" That tiny action was my body saying what my mouth didn't. "I don't trust you." The sigh detail came later that night. I went to switch laundry and found Grandma's bedroom door cracked open. Inside, my mom was leaning over Grandma's dresser, pulling papers from a folder. She froze when she saw me, hand still inside the drawer. For half a second, her face looked guilty. Then it hardened into anger, like I had invaded her privacy by catching her. What are you doing? I asked. Mom snapped the folder closed. Your grandmother asked me to find her insurance card. Grandma's voice came from the bed, calm. No, I didn't. Silence fell heavy in that room. My mom didn't turn. She set the folder down too carefully. You're confused, she told Grandma, still using that soft tone she used in public. Grandma wasn't confused. She watched my mom like a judge. That was the new secret. Mom wasn't just upset about the will. She was searching for it. If you've ever seen someone cross a line and then act like you're the problem for noticing, hit like. It's the same playbook everywhere. I walked to the dresser and opened the drawer Mom had been in. It was neat. Too neat. Like someone had already been through it. I looked at Mom. You're going through her things. Mom's cheeks flushed. This is my house, too. Grandma's eyes narrowed. No, it's not. Mom turned on me. Don't you start. Your grandmother is being influenced. Influenced. By me, the quiet daughter who cooked and cleaned and paid for my own phone bill at 16. Lauren appeared in the doorway like she had been listening. What's going on? Mom pointed at Grandma. She's being manipulated. She's making decisions out of spite. Grandma spoke without raising her voice. I made a decision out of love. Lauren walked in, hands up. Okay. Nobody is saying you can't do what you want. We just need to make sure you're protected. Protected. Another word that sounded good and meant control. Sophie's little footsteps came down the hall. She peeked in, hair messy from sleep. Mom? Mom's tone changed instantly. Go back upstairs, honey. Sophie looked at Grandma. Grandma held out her hand, and Sophie walked to the bed without looking at my mom. That moment made something in my chest ache. Sophie didn't gravitate to my parents. She gravitated to the one person in this house who saw her. Lauren's smile widened. See? She's fine. Everyone's fine. I held Sophie close. We're leaving the room. As we turned, Mom said, if you keep filling her head with this victim stuff, you're going to ruin her. I stopped. I didn't turn back, but I spoke clearly. You already tried to erase her, I said. You don't get to lecture me about ruining anything. In the hallway, Sophie whispered, Is Grandma sick because of me? My heart broke quietly, the way it does when you can't afford to fall apart. No, I said. Grandma is sick because she's old, not because of you. Never you. Later that week, Grandma's attorney came to the house. He was polite, neutral. He asked Grandma questions in front of witnesses. He made sure she understood what she was signing. I sat in the corner with my hands folded, trying to look like I wasn't shaking. Mom and Lauren hovered by the doorway, pretending they were just concerned. After the attorney left, Mom followed me into the kitchen and spoke low. You need to talk her out of this, she said. I didn't talk her into it. Mom's eyes flashed. Then prove it. Tell her to keep things fair. Fair? I said. You erased a child and called it tidy. You're stealing papers out of her dresser. And you're talking to me about fair. Lauren walked in behind Mom. We are not stealing. We're safeguarding. You're acting unstable. Unstable. Another label. Another tool. I stepped closer. What did you take? Lauren's face stayed calm, but her fingers twitched at her side. Nothing. I watched her. I watched Mom. I watched the way they stood shoulder to shoulder like a team. Then I saw at Lauren's purse, half open on the chair. A corner of a manila envelope sticking out. The same kind Grandma kept her documents in. My stomach went cold. I didn't grab it. I didn't accuse. I just said, if anything happens to Grandma's paperwork, I'm calling the attorney myself. Mom scoffed. Don't threaten me in my own home. I said, this isn't your home. Not like you think. That night, Sophie asked if she could sleep in Grandma's room. Just until she feels better, she said. I let her. I sat with Grandma while Sophie fell asleep holding Grandma's hand. Grandma whispered to me, they're going to try something. I whispered back, what kind of something? Grandma didn't answer right away. Then she said, the kind that involves calling people with badges. I didn't want to believe her. But 2 mornings later, I opened the front door to take out trash and saw a patrol car idling at the curb. and my mother was already on the porch, talking to the officer like she had been waiting for him. The officer wasn't aggressive. That was the scary part. He stood with his notebook out, eyes scanning me like he was looking for signs he could write down. My mom's voice carried through the open door. "She's manipulating my mother. She moved in after her divorce and now she's isolating her. We're worried about elder abuse." Elder abuse. Those words hit like a slap. Not because I didn't know they were capable of lying, but because they had chosen a lie that could take everything from me. My job, my custody, my dignity. Sophie was behind the staircase, peeking through the railing, clutching her stuffed rabbit like it could protect her. I kept my face still. "Officer, may I speak with you inside? Away from my daughter?" The officer nodded, and we stepped into the living room. Mom followed like she owned the air. Lauren appeared too, wearing a cardigan and an innocent expression, like she had dressed for court. The wrong detail was how prepared they were. Hair done, papers in hand, a story rehearsed. The officer asked me questions. How long had I lived here? Did Grandma depend on me? Did I control her medications? Did I stop her from seeing family? I answered. Short, clear, no attitude, no sarcasm. Then Grandma's door opened upstairs. Grandma walked out slowly, leaning on her cane. She was small, but in that moment she looked bigger than the whole house. "I asked for this," Grandma said, voice steady. Everyone froze. Mom's face went pale. "Mom, go back to bed." "You're confused." Grandma stared down at her. "I'm not confused. I'm tired of watching you." The officer looked up. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you feel pressured to change your will?" Grandma gripped the banister and descended one step at a time. "I changed my will because I wanted to," she said. "Because my great-granddaughter deserves a home where she isn't treated like she's in the way." Mom snapped. "This is exactly what I mean. She's being fed these lines." Grandma turned her head slightly. "No one fed me anything. I have eyes." She pointed her cane toward the dining room table where the leftover photo cards still sat in a pile. "Ask them about the picture," Grandma said. The officer looked confused. "The picture?" I walked to the table, took one card, and handed it to him. "You see those kids?" I asked. "My daughter was sitting right there." The officer studied it, then he frowned. "There's an odd blur near the floor." I nodded. "Someone edited her out." Lauren's voice went tight. "It was a holiday card. It's not a crime." Grandma said, "Erasing a child isn't a crime, but lying to the police is." Silence again, thick. The officer set the card down carefully. "Ma'am," he said to Grandma, "do you want to file a report about anyone taking your documents or pressuring you?" Mom jumped in. "No, she doesn't understand what she's saying." Grandma looked right at the officer. "I understand, and I want you to note that my daughter and granddaughter are trying to discredit me because they don't like my choices." The officer wrote something down. Mom's mouth opened and closed, like she wasn't used to anyone believing Grandma over her. Lauren's face tightened. "This is insane. You're tearing the family apart." Grandma's voice stayed calm. "You tore it when you decided a little girl didn't fit." The officer asked one more question. "Is anyone preventing you from leaving or from accessing your money?" Grandma said, "No, but I want my daughter and granddaughter to stop entering my room and taking things." My mom shot me a look that could have cut glass. "So you're going to do this to me?" I didn't respond, because every time I spoke, they used it as proof I was emotional. The officer closed his notebook. "Okay, I'll document that the allegations aren't supported at this time. If you need anything, call." When he left, the house felt like it was holding its breath. Mom rounded on Grandma. "How could you humiliate me like that?" Grandma didn't flinch. "How could you call the police on your own child?" Mom's gaze swung to me. "You wanted this. You've always wanted to take what's mine," I said quietly. "I wanted my daughter in a photograph." Lauren stepped forward. "You're poisoning Grandma. You're making her choose you." Grandma lifted her chin. "I'm choosing what's right." Then she did the thing that changed everything. She reached into the pocket of her robe and pulled out a set of keys. She held them out toward me. "Take these," she said. "Today." My hands went cold. Grandma's eyes didn't soften. "Don't argue. I'm still alive. I'm still capable. And I'm done letting them pretend they run my house." Mom's voice rose. "You can't do this. Where are we supposed to go?" Grandma turned to her. "Somewhere else," Lauren sputtered. "You're kicking them out? Over a stupid card?" Grandma's voice dropped lower. "Over years. That was the new secret. Grandma hadn't just changed her will. She had already started the legal process to remove my parents from the house." My dad finally spoke, voice raw. "Mom, please. We've lived here for years." Grandma looked at him with something like sadness. "And you watched them treat your sister and her child like servants." Dad flinched. He looked at me, like he wanted me to fix this. But I wasn't fixing anything anymore. That night, Mom and Lauren argued in the kitchen until midnight, whispering harshly about money, about what people will say, about how I was ungrateful. Sophie sat on the attic bed with her knees tucked to her chest. "Are we going to be okay?" she asked. I took Grandma's keys in my palm and felt the weight of them. Metal. Real. "Not a promise. We're going to be safe," I said. Downstairs, I heard my mom hiss. "We can't leave. It's our house." And I heard Grandma's answer, steady as a door shutting. "Not anymore." Before the moving truck showed up, I need to know, what do you think my mom and Lauren tried next? Drop your prediction in the comments, because I didn't see their next move coming. 2 weeks later, the eviction notice was taped to the inside of the kitchen cabinet, hidden behind the flour canister. I found it because I was the one who cooked, because I was the one who cleaned, because they still treated me like help, even while they were trying to destroy me. The paper was official. Court date, deadline, consequences. Mom hid it, hoping Grandma would miss the deadline. I carried it upstairs to Grandma. She read it once, then looked at me with a tired smile. So they're still playing games. I felt exhausted, but certain. Grandma's attorney handled the rest. The court date came fast. Grandma showed up with her paperwork and her signature. Mom and Lauren showed up with their outrage. They kept repeating the same words. Family, future, best for the kids. Mom spoke to the judge with tears that looked practiced. "I'm just trying to protect my mother. She's vulnerable. My daughter and I have sacrificed so much." Grandma didn't cry. She just told the truth. "I'm not vulnerable," she said. "I'm old. I'm not stupid." The judge listened. The judge asked questions. The judge looked at the documents. The judge looked at Grandma. Then the judge looked at my mom and said something that felt like oxygen. "Your mother has the legal right to decide who lives in her home." My mom's face went blank. Lauren reached for her hand. "We can appeal," she whispered. But the order was signed. They had 30 days to leave. At home, my parents acted like they were the victims of a crime. Mom stopped speaking to me except to bark instructions. Dad avoided my eyes. Lauren came by one afternoon, alone, and stood at the bottom of the attic stairs like she couldn't bring herself to climb them. "You think you won," she said. I kept folding laundry. I didn't look up. "This isn't a game." Lauren's voice sharpened. "Mom and Dad have nowhere to go." I finally looked at her. "You have a house," Lauren scoffed. "With my husband and my son. That's different." I waited. She exhaled, irritated. "They can't move in with me. It would ruin everything." Ruin everything. Her comfort, her image, her marriage, her weekends. That was the twist that didn't surprise me, but still hurt. The person who had been given everything refused to give back even an inch. Lauren straightened her shoulders. "You should talk Grandma into letting them stay. For Sophie. Kids need grandparents." I stared at her. "You erased Sophie from a picture." Lauren rolled her eyes like I was still being dramatic. "It was one card." I said, "No, it was a message." Lauren's mouth tightened. "You're going to make Sophie grow up bitter." I answered, "I'm going to make her grow up seen." Lauren left without saying goodbye. The last week before the deadline, my mom tried one more angle. She waited until Sophie was in the living room coloring. Then she came to me in the kitchen and spoke softly, like she was offering peace. "If you let us stay," she said, "we'll help you. We'll watch Sophie more. You can stop working nights. We can be a real family again." My stomach turned, because I heard what she wasn't saying. If you comply, we'll include you. If you obey, we'll stop punishing you. I glanced at Sophie. She was humming to herself, head bent over the page, unaware that her future was being negotiated over her head. I said, "No." Mom blinked. "Excuse me?" I kept my tone calm. "No, you don't get to trade kindness for control." Mom's voice rose. "I'm her grandmother," I said. "Then act like it." The moving day came on a cold Saturday morning. A truck pulled up. Boxes appeared on the porch. Dad carried a box without speaking. Lauren showed up halfway through, stood in the driveway, and watched like she was watching a show she didn't like. When Mom finally climbed into the passenger seat of the car, she looked back at the house one last time. Not at Grandma, not at Sophie, at the house. Then she said, "You'll regret this." Grandma stood in the doorway, wrapped in a shawl. Sophie was beside her. Sophie lifted her small hand and waved anyway, because she was a kid, and she still loved people who didn't deserve it. The car drove away. The quiet that followed felt unreal. That afternoon, Grandma called me downstairs and told me to choose a room for Sophie. A real room. We picked the small bedroom on the second floor, the one Evan used on weekends, the one with the window that faced the backyard. Sophie walked in and spun in a slow circle, eyes wide. "Is this really mine?" she asked. "Yes," I said. Grandma had already bought paint. A soft, pale yellow. Not bright, just warm. We painted together. Sophie got paint on her nose. Grandma laughed and then had to sit down, breathless but smiling. When the room was finished, Sophie sat on the floor in the middle of it and looked up at me. "Mom," she said, "do I fit here?" I swallowed. "You always did." That night, I pulled out the last untouched photo card and set it on the kitchen counter. I didn't tear it up. I didn't burn it. I didn't give it power. I made my own card. Just 3 people. Grandma in her chair, Sophie in her pale blue dress, me standing behind them, hand on Sophie's shoulder. No one missing, no one erased. And if you're wondering what happened to my parents after they left, here's the part I still can't wrap my head around. They struggled financially almost immediately. Rent in town was high. Mom had never managed bills without Grandma's house backing her up. Dad's paycheck didn't stretch as far as he pretended. They called Lauren, begged, told her it was for the family. Lauren said no. Sophie never asked to see them again, not because I forbade it, because she remembered the empty space in the photo. Now, when she looks in a mirror, she doesn't look like someone waiting to be erased. She looks like a kid who belongs. At the end of all this, I have one question that still keeps me up at night, and I want to know your answer in the comments. If family asks you to sacrifice your child's dignity, do you owe them loyalty, or do you owe your child protection? And if you've made it this far, thank you for staying with me.